Well, good morning, everyone. Good to see you today. As I began my research for this new message series, I started out by accessing a library website and typing in the words information age. Just guess how many responses I got. The results was 1,866,198 books and research journal articles. Well, that was too much, so I filtered the search down to just published books. I've learned that if a publisher has been willing to take a financial risk, the person just might have something worthy of saying. So that went down to 15,693 published books. That's still too much, so then I filtered it down to the books that were available in that particular library network or connection. That got me down to 2,395 books. Then I filtered it further down to the number of books that were actually on the shelf in the library closest to me. Now we're down to 171 books. So I spent an afternoon in that particular library looking over these books. And after several hours just kind of looking over these 171, not all of them, but generally scanning them, I ended up checking out 6 of these books. I scanned 3 of them and ended up buying 3 of them. And I've read a good portion of 3 books. Now, I tell you this because this is an example of both the benefits and the challenges of living in what is referred to as the information age. The benefit, of course, is access to so much information. That's a tremendous benefit. The challenge, of course, is filtering, like what I need to do. You got to filter all of that information in some way down to what is actually helpful and will increase the quality of your life. So here's the challenge we face. Our access to information has multiplied exponentially, but our brains are still the same size, and our days are still the same length. So what do we do with that big difference? I mean, I only have 35 minutes to talk to you. So I had to go from 1.8 million books and articles down to 35 minutes. That's a particular challenge to figure out how to do that. I had to decide what to say. So here's kind of an image of what I think this looks like. The top of the information funnel has expanded, but not the bottom. All the information has expanded, but the bottoms remain the same size. We still have to make decisions. And we only have so much time and so many opportunities, and so we still have to take all that information and we have to boil it down. Okay, so what am I going to do with that information today or next? That's the challenge. And the information explosion has not changed the basic needs that we have. It's just given us new ways to try and address these needs, new ways to be entertained, new ways to find love, new ways to learn about our world, new ways to connect with each other. And the question that's being increasingly asked, not just by followers of Christ, but society and experts in general, is with all of this information, are we really better? And I think the answer is mixed. In some ways, I think we really are. I think there's a tremendous benefit to all this information. But in other ways, we are not necessarily better. We may actually be worse in some ways. Now, I started my research on this topic, as I said, with 1.8 million books and journal articles. But for me, I always come back to one book, and that is the Bible. In this book, God speaks to the same needs that the information age does. Our need for entertainment, our need for love, our need for information, our need for connection. So in this series, what we're going to be doing is we're going to use the Bible as our primary information filter for each of these different offerings of the information age, the different things that the information age offers to help us in. Now, if you study the Bible, read it much, it doesn't take long before you understand that the Bible's focus is not so much on information, the amount of information that you have. The focus in the Bible is on wisdom, not information. And the reason is because wisdom is the filter that leads to joy, which is what we all would love. Here's a verse that explains this, Ecclesiastes 2, verse 26 in the Old Testament portion of the Bible. It says this, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to those who please him. So everyone would love to live a life characterized by joy. Many think that joy is the byproduct of happy circumstances. But what this is saying is that joy is really a gift of God that can be given in spite of your circumstances and is deeper than the ever-changing roller coaster of our circumstances. And the gift of joy, as it's described here, it comes in a package. It's not just a singular gift, it's a package gift. It is wrapped together with wisdom and knowledge. Now, information isn't listed in these verses, but its presence is obvious. It's assumed. And that's because without information, we wouldn't be able to know anything, and then we wouldn't be able to act wisely if we don't know anything. So where does the information fit in our pursuit of joy? Well, let me show you how this all lines up. This is the way they line up, and we're going to start with information. It begins with information. That's the facts, the raw data that we now have access to in amazing ways. The next is knowledge. Knowledge is information that is understood. So you take information, you understand it, so you know how to do it. So that's now knowledge. That's another step in this lineup. Wisdom is the next step. Wisdom is knowledge that's applied to the current situation. In other words, I just don't know in general this topic. In the moment, in the heat of the moment, I know what needs to be done that's best. Wisdom is really situational knowledge. I know what to do in this moment. And the result of that is joy. This is how they all line up. God is pleased when we do what he says is wise. And when we do what is wise, we experience his pleasure on the inside as joy. His joy is transferred to us. It rubs off on our souls, and we experience the delight and joy of God when we do what is right. So how exactly has the information age that we're talking about in this series, how has it impacted this lineup? Well, here's what's happened, I think. As our access to information has grown, our knowledge has shrunk. Let me explain what I mean by that. That's because we don't have to know as much as we used to have to know. All we have to know now is where to find the knowledge. We don't have to keep it in our brains, in our minds. We don't have to know how to do everything. We've got Google. Google knows all. So we can offload knowledge now to Google or whatever search engine you use. Now, this can be really helpful in some ways. And if your child is stung by a bee, you don't have to rely on your memory to know what to do in that moment. If you got a phone, Google it. It'll tell you, what do you do with a bee sting? And almost any other question. That is really, really helpful. The challenge is we think that we know more now than we actually do. I remember during COVID, when all of our hair was getting longer and longer, I started watching YouTube videos on how to cut hair. And for a moment, I thought, that doesn't look very hard. And then we started, and I realized, I don't know how to cut hair. And I saw a lot of other people that indicated, you don't know either. So it's one thing to have a knowledge YouTube video. It's another thing to actually have the skills, the knowledge to do something. So the result, though, of the information age, I think, is that we are outsourcing more and more of our knowledge to the cloud and less of it to our memories. That's just the result of access to so much information. Now, again, that's fine when it comes to a bee sting knowledge. But what about when it comes to knowing the Bible, for example? I mean, I think what's happening for a lot of people is this. I mean, why bother to memorize verses in the Bible or grow in my knowledge of what it teaches when I can access it faster than I can recite it? There's all kinds of apps and programs that I can just search topics and boom, it pops up. So why get it into my mind and into my heart when I have it in my pocket on my cell phone? Searchable. The problem with this approach of offloading knowledge in general and Bible knowledge in particular is that we don't just need the Bible to answer questions that come up. The Bible is not an answer to trivial pursuits, questions that people have. We need the Bible and the power of God's words to change our hearts and the way we live and view life. That is a function in the Bible called growing in wisdom. And you can't offload that to the cloud. Wisdom in the Bible is practically defined as the knowledge of God applied to my current situation. So, for example, you don't have time to search the Bible for the wise answer when you and your spouse are arguing, or when your kids just did something that you don't know what to say or what to do in response. They're confusing you. You've got to say something next. You've got to do something next. You can't say, hang on just a minute. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. If there's little or no knowledge of God's word in your heart and in your mind, you cannot become wise. You just can't. So here's the way the lineup has been affected, the whole lineup. As our access to information has grown, our knowledge has diminished. That has reduced our wisdom, our ability to know what to do in the moment, which has then reduced our joy. This is where we are now. In this series, we're going to be using the Bible to help us filter what the information age is offering so that we might grow in knowledge, kind of grow the back half of this lineup, grow in knowledge so that we might grow in wisdom, so that we might experience the joy that cannot be offloaded to the cloud. So the first information age offering that we're considering today is entertainment. Now, of course, the number of entertainment options available to us now is just staggering, how many entertainment options we have. So let me just give you some categories. We all know these, but just to make sure we understand what we're talking about here. One category is just movies and shows. You know, Prime Video has over 25,000 movies to choose from. They don't list how many shows because I don't know if they know. Well, I'm sure they do, but they don't list it. So it's 25,000 movies. Netflix has 18,000 movies. These are movies, like, 2+ hour or 2-ish hour offerings. I mean, I remember as a kid, this is going to date me, I remember rushing home on Sunday nights to watch Bonanza. Because if you missed it, you missed it. There was no DVR, there was no streaming. It was Sunday night, be there or miss the whole thing. Now, of course, my wife and I regularly turn to each other and say, what do you want to watch? And then we look at each other like, let's start looking. We start looking. And what's funny, I noticed myself over these last few years is we're watching a movie and I get curious about the actor. So I pull up my phone, I start Googling, how old is this guy? Is he married? Has he got kids? That's an amazing mountain. Where did they shoot this movie? I mean, the movie's going on, and Rebecca looks at me, what are you doing? Just learning more stuff? More information is needed for some reason. It's not enough to be entertained. I got to know more about what's going on. So this is the way it is now. No real purpose to the information. I just am curious. And because I can know, I want to know. How about sports? So many sports offerings. And this is pretty exciting. I mean, a few months ago, I was scrolling through ESPN trying to figure out what I wanted to watch. And I saw something I'd never seen on ESPN, and that is dodgeball. I thought, really? Dodgeball? Huh. So I just had to watch it. I mean, I was curious, is this the same game we played as kids? It's the exact same game. I mean, done way better than we did as kids, but still, it's just grown adults throwing a rubber ball at each other. Dodgeball. Of course, it's now on TV along with every sport imaginable. I mean, of course, there's the downtime of sports right after the Super Bowl and before March Madness when there's just nothing practically going on, and that's when you'll find dodgeball and all kinds of other interesting things on ESPN. How about gaming? Gaming's a big form of entertainment. In the U.S., 171 million people play online video games at least 1 hour per week. That is half the entire population. That's a lot of people. And honestly, I get it. I remember when Halo came out on Xbox when my son was in high school. Back before we could all connect with online gaming, we'd get Xbox consoles and link them all together, and we could play each other. Now, of course, you do that online. And it's a lot of fun. So the desire to be entertained is not a new thing. It's not a modern thing. The information age did not introduce entertainment, it just changed it. The word entertain is a combination of two Latin words. Enter, which means in between, and tain, which means to hold. So to entertain means to hold in between. What is it that's being held, and in between what? The thing that entertainment holds is the attention of our minds. And the between refers to the free time when our minds are in between our working hours and our sleeping hours. That's the entertainment zone. That's the in-between time in our days. So when we work, our minds, of course, are engaged in the tasks of labor. When we sleep, our minds are still engaged, but they're dreaming. Why would our minds need to be held in between those two parts of the day? Well, it's because of the complexity of the way God designed our minds. Our minds require more than just the physical downtime of sleep and the engagement of work. Our minds, it turns out, require a kind of recharging that can only come in between those other two segments of our 24-hour day, in between our work and in between our sleep. That's the recharging zone. The recharging need for entertainment goes back all the way to creation itself. We get hints of this need in the seventh day of creation when we read this in Genesis chapter 2, verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished his work, the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all of his work. So let me ask you, does God need to rest? No. Other parts of the Bible basically say he doesn't rest. So then why did he rest on the seventh day? It wasn't for him, it's for us. It's because he created us in a way that needs rest. The kind of rest that God is addressing here is not the sleeping kind of rest. The natural circadian rhythm of our body takes care of that need. God is addressing a mental need for which we have no internal clock. Later in the Bible, God names this need. He calls it Sabbath. It's the in-between day of your work week. And I think that the needs that God has addressed by the Sabbath day is why we seek entertainment. In between our work days and our work weeks, we need Sabbath. So this morning, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the Sabbath filter from the Bible to our entertainment options. Now, again, as I've been saying, we'd be lost in the information age without the ability to filter our searches. So our approach in this entire series is to give you filters from the Bible that you can use to make information choices that will lead to wisdom and then to joy. So rather than give you screen time limits or content restrictions on your entertainment choices, I think the best filter is fully understanding what God intended in the Sabbath. The in-between day that God established for our work weeks, I think, is instructive for the in-between hours of our work days. So here's what we read a little later in the Old Testament about this day and God's purpose behind it. Exodus 20, verse 8 says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy." Two words, the word Sabbath and the word holy, that represent two filters we're going to look at this morning. So as we look at the entertainment options I propose you use these two filters to consider your own entertainment choices and selections. So, filter number one, good entertainment refreshes our minds. It refreshes our minds. That's what the word Sabbath is really pointing to. The word Sabbath literally means stop working. The challenge when it comes to our minds is our minds don't just stop working. You don't walk away from whatever your work is and your mind just goes blank. Your mind is always churning. Even while we sleep, our minds are churning and dreaming. So our minds need a break from the strain of work so that they can be refreshed. So the question is, how do you refresh a mind? In Ecclesiastes, the same book that I read the verse from earlier, we are given the description of a man who is experiencing burnout. His mind was worn out by all of his work. And here's what we read about him. Ecclesiastes 4, verse 8, there was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. So it's pretty clear that his mind is what's tired, not his body. I mean, his body may be tired too, we don't know. But there's evidence that his mind is tired here. The two indicators are he's not content with what he has. That's a mind that is not at rest. It's not at peace. And the second indicator is he's lost perspective on his work. He says, for whom and why am I doing this? He doesn't even have a deep why as to why he's just kind of working and accumulating wealth, and he's lost perspective. Why is this individual's mind tired? Well, it says there's no end to his toil. There was no in-between time. In between the sleep and between the work. Another way of saying it, there's no entertainment in this man's life, no Sabbath. He needed to take a break from his toil. The big question is to do what? Exactly. That's the big entertainment challenge. With all the options, what is it that's going to refresh us? I mean, when I get home from work, all I want to do is veg out, right? And we know that this is what I mean when I say that. I mean, screen time, watch TV mostly. Screen time is, of course, the dominant form of entertainment in the information age. So why do we call a person doing it a couch potato or the activity vegging out? Well, it's because we're still somewhat honest about the effect that it has and the effort that is required. I mean, the effort required to watch TV is, well, it's vegetable-like. I mean, a carrot could do it, right? You just sit and watch. That's the effort. The effect is to put your mind in a kind of vegetative state. Now, I don't think I understood fully the effects of screen time until we had kids. I mean, those of you who had kids, you've seen this with your own eyes. You don't need a research study to show you this stuff. Put kids in front of a screen, and you just watch the metamorphosis. They turn into vegetables in front of your eyes. I mean, literally, their face goes, And they just, it's like the life is just kind of drained out of them. To the point where you talk to them and they're like, I mean, it was fascinating to watch this and a little scary. So they become vegetables in front of the screen. That is until you turn it off, and then you pay the price for the hours of relative calm while they were watching it. Somehow, the time watching has made them miserable. Why? It's because screen time is missing two of the significant refreshment elements that our minds need. Both refreshment elements are clearly stated as missing from this miserable man's life. Here they are. To be refreshed, we need social entertainment. You know, it says he was all alone. So I know what you're thinking. Okay, so don't watch TV all by myself. Sure. But I think that's not the main point. The point is not that this man was all alone in his room. It's that he had no meaningful relationships. Our minds are refreshed by people who are encouraging to us. So I'm not suggesting that you cut out all screen time. I'm suggesting that you make room in your entertainment in between time for social options, social entertainment. For Rebecca and I, a couple of things that's meant. That means that we limit in the evenings our TV watching so that we can go on a walk. And it's a choice every time. Every time. You want to go on a walk? I don't know. Do you want to go on a walk? We have to turn it off, get up, go on a walk. And we're always glad we've done. We are refreshed by that. We don't want to do it. We just want to veg. But we're refreshed by it. Or if we go to a movie, let's get some friends to go with us and then get some dessert or something after, go out for dinner after. Sporting events are great. You're live and you're with other people. You cheer together. If most of your entertainment is solitary, your mind isn't getting the refreshment that it needs. The second aspect of refreshment is the entertainment needs to be enjoyable. We need enjoyable entertainment if we're going to be refreshed. This is what the man says. Why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? Work life tends to be repetitive. I mean, maybe you've got one of those jobs that's just like all delight and excitement and success, and you come home every day and you're like, man, I can't believe I had to leave and come home. Maybe. My guess is not so much. So over time, we are creatively drained and boredom actually sets in. Recreation is one of the ways our minds are creatively re-energized. If you really think of the word recreate, RE is a prefix that means again, and create. We again need to get creative. That's why we recreate, so we can get creative again. And this is more than just having fun. It needs to be something that engages your mind in a different way than when you're sleeping, and then when you're working, and then when you're watching TV. For me, and I don't know what it is for you, for me, one of the great things I can do to refresh my mind is to ride my bike. My work, probably like most work, requires a lot of mental focus. And you know what my mind can do on a bike ride? It can drift. It just can go, oh, look at that bird, and oh, wow, the wind's picking up, and why are e-bikes going so fast, and whatever else, So it can drift. So in that free space that, I've got to stay on the trail, got to keep upright, it doesn't take a lot of brain power. So in that free space, ideas that are deep inside me have the freedom to bubble up. And as I ride, my mind is recreated. And I'll tell you this, most of my leadership clarity here at Seabreeze has occurred between mile 20 and 30 on a bike ride. It just has taken that long, and stuff that's in the back of my mind that I can't figure out, that I'm not trying to figure out, it just kind of starts bubbling up, and, well, there's an idea I'd never thought of. So I don't know what it is for you, but like me, like all of us, you need enjoyable entertainment, something that allows your mind the space to get refreshed. That's filter number one, refreshment. Filter number two is this: good entertainment refocuses our minds. This is the word holy. We remember the Sabbath day, says, by keeping it holy. The Hebrew word for holy means to be separate from or different. God is holy. He's very different. He's unlike anything else, anyone else. So when God carves out an in-between day and makes it holy, he's saying, I want this day to have a different focus. The same principle applies to those in-between hours of entertainment. You see, daily life not only drains our minds, it clutters our minds. And so what happens over time is the true and the important fade, and the false and the unimportant just take over. So our minds, really the way to think of this, our minds kind of need a shower like our bodies do. Good entertainment helps remove the mental gunk that just accumulates over time. So here's my advice on refocusing entertainment. Don't shower with muddy water. That's not going to be helpful to have your entertainment choices be muddy. Philippians 4, verse 8, there's a great set of filters on this. It says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, what is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Many of us have a to-do list, to focus our work effort on what needs to be done daily. This is kind of like God's to-think list. These are the things that you want to keep on your mind. This doesn't mean that you should limit your entertainment to Christian movies. That's not what I'm saying. What it does mean is that you filter out entertainment that adds more slime to your mind than it removes. So let's apply this filter. We'll go through it pretty quickly because 35 minutes is faster than you think. Here's the first question. Is this form of entertainment true? In other words, does it promote a lie? This is why I love sporting events so much, why I think they're such a good form of entertainment. Because you know what lying is called in sports? Cheating. And if anyone cheats, guess who blows the whistle? There's a referee or an umpire that says, None of that. But you're watching a movie, there's no referee go, well, that's not actually true. So you watch stuff and you start to wonder, I don't know, is that true or not? So again, I'm not saying only sports. I'm saying this is the beauty of sports, is they still really believe in right and wrong and truth and lies. Otherwise, you wouldn't have interesting entertainment from a sporting standpoint. So if you're going to watch movies, and we watch shows, one of the things that Rebecca and I try to do is, well, let's just spend a moment to talk with, what about that thought or what about that idea? Is there anything in the Bible that speaks to that? Just get our own referee whistles and say, whew, that was fun, we were laughing. Not true. Just blow the whistle on it. Is this form of entertainment noble? Does it elevate noble things like hard work, loyalty, love, and courage? One of the things you'll find behind the real popular movies is they often feature some element of nobility. It's good to think about, well, what is it that's noble in this offering? They call us to be better. That's great entertainment. Next question, is this form of entertainment right? It's a little different than truth. Truth is this objectively true or not? Right is that, does this work out? Does this truth work out in life? Is it what God says is right or not? So it's kind of the continuation of truth. Does it fit with the way God has designed reality? I've watched all kinds of movies where the guy is lazy, he's a jerk, he's deceptive, but in the end, he's rich and he gets the girl. Is that the way it really works out usually? I mean, I know there's exceptions. But is that the way? I mean, if you're a parent, you're raising sons, is that what you're aiming for? No, that's the way to a hard life. But in the movies, everything just works out in 2 hours. That's not how life works. But of course, you watch that, and my mind's just a little confused about, well, then why am I working so hard? And why are things not working out for me? Afterwards, sometimes I feel kind of blah about my life. And the reason is I've just taken a muddy shower for my mind. So if I do that, I got to at least think my way around to, okay, so what's true? See, the thing about our lives, when you live them, they don't come with a musical score like movies do that makes everything swell to happiness, And so we get kind of confused about what's right. Another question, is this form of entertainment pure? Will it add impure thoughts to my mind? If so, it's not helpful. Next, is this form of entertainment lovely? In other words, is there beauty to it? Beauty owes its origin to God, the Creator. He's the author of beauty. This is why beauty lifts our spirits and resizes our problems. One of the things my wife and I have been watching recently is the Americas. It's a show, Tom Hanks is entertaining or narrating it, but the show is just amazing on the beauty of the different parts of this particular continent we live on. And I come away from that screen time feeling okay and refocused somewhat. I'll say this too. This is why Rebecca and I love concerts. We love going to concerts. You know, for us, one of our favorite places is the Seabreeze Concert Hall. I mean, this will be a surprise to you. I used to play violin, and my wife used to play oboe, so we played in orchestra. So we just love, just walking into that building, if you've never been in, it's pretty amazing. Those are things that are lovely, beautiful. Lastly, is this form of entertainment admirable? Will this have a positive or negative effect on our minds? You know, you're going to need your mind for tomorrow's work. Don't drain it in the in-between time. The summary test is this. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, the idea is, how would this sound in public? If people knew about this entertainment choice of yours, would you cringe or would they cringe? If so, that might indicate, it's not necessarily the major measure, but it might indicate you should probably take a closer look and consider some filtering. So the next step, I'm not going to get elaborate on this. My guess is that as I've talked about this, there were a few moments where you felt defensive and a few moments where you cringed, and I would just say, go back and we'll use an information age analogy, double click on that. Take a look and see, is there something there that God might want me to think about more and filter more? Next week, we're going to turn our attention to digital sex. There's just no way we could cover information age without going into that. So I'm telling you now, so that if you've got kids, you might not want to bring them in here. Not because I'm going to be explicit. I won't be explicit. But I want the parents to be aware so that you can put your children in the kids' classes rather than bring them in the auditorium. I would say next week's talk that I'm going to give, I would label PG-13. So, again, not going to be explicit, but if you don't want to have these conversations with your kids yet, then spread the word. This is what we're talking about next Sunday. All right, let's pray. Father, we thank you for the truth of your word that has stood the test of time and produces joy because it describes not only who you are, but who we are and how you've designed life to be. So every new technology comes with tremendous advantages and tremendous challenges. So as we take your word and use it as a filter to this moment in history, I pray that you'd give us clarity. I pray that in this group here, that you would grow our wisdom so that we might experience the joy that you long for us to experience. We thank you again for your word. I just pray you'd give insight into all of us about our entertainment choices and what filtering we need to do. We ask this now in the name of Jesus. Amen.